mentioned, I am also a part of IIT Dharwad. Uh, uh, you all are very well aware that there are certain very new challenges that we are encountering as teachers. One very important thing is there is changing expectations. The expectations are very different by the parents, by the students, by the teachers as well. On one side, there is changing expectation. On the other side, we have changing dynamics. I still remember my uncle, who is also a professor in IIT. Uh, he used to tell me that every time he got 99 out of 100, the teacher would come and punish him for scoring 99. You cannot imagine that kind of a situation in the present day. If you even try to do that, then you will be in rough waters, you will be in trouble. So the kind of expectation by the teachers is different, by the students is also very different. This is on one side. And when we look at the parents, in the olden days, even parents used to accept if the teacher punishes the child. But in the present day, if anybody finds a teacher punishing a child, forget about punishing, even speaking in very strict terms, even that is not acceptable to most of the parents in the present day. So what we have to understand as teachers is, on one side there is changing expectations, on the other side there is complete change in the dynamics of the kind of relationship we have with each other. And on the other side, the third part of it is there are changing values and definitions. So all in all, what I want to tell you is this makes teaching much more challenging. I keep telling a lot of teachers when I interact with them, teaching has always been a very difficult job, challenging job. We often tell, being teacher is being an extended parent. You have to, preach like a parent. You have to guide the child like a parent. You have to mentor the child like, the parents do, the father, the mother, they do. At the same time, you have to teach them academics. So I would say, if you compare, parenting versus, teaching job, which one is more difficult? If somebody asks me, then I would definitely say teaching, because you are supposed to be a parent, at the same time you are supposed to be a teacher. So teaching has always been difficult, and in the present times, considering the expectations of everybody, considering the changing dynamics, considering the changing value systems, definitely it's become much more challenging compared to the olden days. Uh, and because of this, I keep telling, when I talk to teachers, that we need to identify the psychological problems. We have to approach psychological problems in a very scientific method.
Dr. Panduragi,
Yeah.
I think we are not able to see your slides. We can only see the presentation window. It's not showing the slideshow.
Okay.
This we can see now.
This
This
you can
window
see.
we can see, but when you change it to full screen, we are still seeing the base window only.
Sir, then I'll keep this
You
only.
can keep it this. This is fine.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is fine. Thank you.
So now, as I was mentioning, the teaching has become much more challenging compared to the olden times. Uh, then, once we know that we have to approach all these things as scientifically, we have to understand from the child's perspective, from the parent's perspective, from the academic perspective. Then we have to know why we really need to attend this session. One very important thing is, there was one huge survey which was done in our own country, which was sponsored by national, the central government, the health and family welfare department of the central government. They sponsored one huge study in our own country in 2015 and 2016, and the reports got published in 2017. And this was called as National Mental Health Survey. In this, they evaluated about 34,000 people across 12 states. And practically, I would say that this is a very huge landmark study which opened our eyes. In the present study, they say the children and the adolescents, they constitute for about 20% of our country's population. So let us say that our country's population is roughly around 150 crores. About 30 crore is the population below the age of 20. So somebody would argue that we are a very young country, we are so much productive, we have got so much potential. This is a good side of it, this is a plus side of it, but just look at the other side of it. Just like it is said, every coin has got two sides. The other side of the coin tells us that about 10 to 20% of this population, which is 20% of the entire population, 10 to 20% of this population has got one or the other psychological problems for which they have to seek professional help. Just look at the numbers, 10 to 20%. For a very long time, parents and teachers believed that the whole responsibility which lies on the child is just to go to college, study, present the papers or all the research projects, then come back. And many people believed that there is absolutely no stress apart from academic stress in this age group. But what we realize is from this survey, 1 out of 6 Indians need psychological help, psychological evaluation. And the unfortunate part is 70 to 90% of them, they do not seek professional help. And you know the reason? The first important reason is because of a stigma. Even today, when I visit our campus, many people ask us, to close the door, because if somebody is talking to me and some, passerby just looks at us, he will realize that I've consulted a psychiatrist or a psychologist who is in house, and probably he will think that I am psychologically weak, I am mentally weak, I cannot handle my own things. So this is the kind of a stigma which many people have, and even many people call me on phone, though I visit different institutions. They always have a chance to come and meet me in person, but they would prefer calling on phone just to make sure that nobody notices them talking to me. So there is a huge stigma among the community when it comes to meeting or talking to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. The second part is lack of awareness. Many people are not aware that these are psychological problems, and these are the ways you can identify them. And there are several modalities in which you can seek help. It may be pharmacological, it may be non-pharmacological, it may be psychotherapy, it may be healthy life measures, but people are not really aware of that. And I'm not just talking about uneducated people. The lack of awareness is observed even in people who are extremely well educated. It is seen among technical side, non-technical side. You go to any profession, you can find quite a sizable number of people who are unaware that these can be symptoms of psychological stress. Then why we need to know that as teachers is when they come to you in degree or during post graduation, they are in the age group of 18 to 25, isn't it? So 18 is a very important age, because this age of teens, between the age of 13 to 19, is what we call as adolescent age. And this adolescent age is the age of transition between childhood to adulthood. During this age, by the time they enter your college, they must be 18 or 19. They are in this age of adolescence. The problem with this age is they are neither children nor they are adults, because this is an age of transition. There are a lot of instances when they behave as if they know everything. Then there are certain situations where they behave as if they absolutely do not know anything. On one side, they appear tall and quite elderly and very mature. And on the other side, when you try to talk to them, there are certain situations where they behave quite immaturely. So they are neither children nor adults, nor you can say that you do not know anything to them. Nor you can say that you know everything, I can give all the responsibilities to you. So this is an age of confusion. I keep telling this to a lot of people. This is an age of confusion. When you know how to, enter, how to go to the main road from your campus, you will not commit mistakes. But if you are confused, if you do not know where to go, you will end up roaming here and there. And then at the end of the day, you may reach the main gate, but it will be too late. So this is what happens to students or children in this age group, where they are confused a lot. And when they are confused a lot, it is very natural. It is possible that they can commit some mistakes. So I keep telling people, if an adolescent commits mistakes, do not punish them. Do not punish them. Try to understand from their perspective. And if there is a understandable reason, try to guide them rather than punishing them. So this is a very important age. And in this age, there are a lot of physical changes, which we call as biological changes, that happen in the children. They grow tall, there is change in the voice, there is, physical development that takes place. This is on one side. But this everybody notices, and then we are all very aware. But what we are not aware, or what is less focused in the present times, is cognitive processes and socio-emotional processes. This I'm saying because by the time a student is 13 or 14 years of age, one very important thing that starts coming to the mind, that is, people have to listen to me. This is the first thing that comes to the mind. Every child in the teens, by the time they come to you, he starts feeling that he is important in the society. He is a somebody in the society. He's not just any Tom, Dick, and Harry, but he is a very important person, and people should love him, respect him, and care for him. This is a very important thing that comes up in this age. This is one part. The second part, friends become nearer and dearer to them than teachers and parents. So anybody who tries to preach them, who tries to talk something to them, then they try to maintain distance from the people who try to tell something to them or preach them. So you can see here, on one side you have friends on the top, on the other side you have parents and teachers. Practically, parents and teachers, they keep doing the same job. Every teacher would want the student to study well. Every teacher would want him to present the presentations on time. Every teacher wants to make sure that the child comes to the class on time, concentrate, perform well. Similarly, even parents would want the child to do. So practically, teachers and parents are on one side, and on the other side you have the friends. If the parents and teachers want him to study, the friends tell him, don't worry, you have come to a stage where definitely you will pass. Definitely you will come out of the college. So don't worry about your teachers and parents. So let us hang out at this point of time. I remember one session where I was talking to students. One girl stood up and asked me, sir, you keep speaking so much about all these things. Do you mean to say that we should never enjoy? Do you mean to say that we should never go out? Do you mean to say that we should never do anything which gives us a lot of fun? Because their imagination, their thinking process, their emotions, they are colored by the people around them. And the problem is, friends are nearer to them than teachers and parents, as I was mentioning. So you may tell 100 things, but everything will become zero if a friend says them to do something else. So we have seen this in many colleges where students say, coming late to class, not presenting the presentation on time, or going out with friends and then coming back drunk. These are very common seen in many of the places. So when you try to talk to them, they say, sir, this is fun. This is our idea of fun. Why this is your idea of fun? Because you are surrounded by people who want you to do this. So this is a very common thing that happens in this age. Friends are nearer and dearer, and no matter how much you tell, no matter how beautifully you tell, they try to maintain distance from you. But you have to notice here that the child is at the center. Sometimes he may listen to you, sometimes he may listen to the friends. Whose pull is more, the child tries to drift towards that end. So what you have to realize is you should not get disheartened, you should not get, you should not feel bad or sad when the child doesn't listen to you, or you give some homework to the child, you give some project to the child is not able to do it on time. You should not get disheartened. This is probably because of the environment of the child. You have to make sure that the child understands your language, even though it may require you telling the same thing to the child 100 times. You should be able to do that without losing patience. Now, the moment I say this, many teachers tell me, sir, we also have got 100 jobs at hand. We have our personal life. We have to go back in the evening. We have to take care of our children. We have to take care of academics. At the same time, you have to maintain other things like, managing timetable. Then every teacher is given one added responsibility like managing the hostels, being a warden, maintaining the cleanliness. How can we do all that? I'm not saying you are supposed to do all these things to all the children. But if you notice that a child has got some kind of a change in behavior over the last few days, the child was never like this, but there is some change in the behavior of the child, then you have to spend some extra time with such children, not all the children, because practically talking to all children becomes very difficult. So what you have to realize is, by and large, there is a tendency that the children drift towards friends than anybody who is trying to preach them in this age. At the same time, every child would want to feel special, feel appreciated, feel cared about in this age. There are a lot of people who trouble teachers in the class. We have seen a lot of referrals from various places across North Karnataka. And when we try to ask the child, why do you do this? Why do you create a nuisance in the class? Many students have told us, sir, I am unable to meet the expectations of the family and the institution. The only way I can get some kind of satisfaction, some kind of attention from my student, my other fellow colleagues, is by doing these kind of things, because the moment I do these things, everybody claps, everybody smiles. So I feel empowered, I feel powerful, so I do this. So what you have to understand in this is, every child wants to seek your attention, every child wants to feel loved, and this is a very normal development at this point of time. So if a child has got some change in the behavior, and if there is a valid reason for that, if you are able to spend time with the child, try to understand the psychology of the child, then in this age of confusion where there is a lot of turmoil, there is a lot of pull from every end, you will be able to guide the child. So uh, till this part, whatever I spoke is a fairly normally seen change during the age of adolescence. But there are certain things about which you need to be aware of. One very important thing is substance abuse in our country. That's the world of addiction which I'm talking about. Many children in this age of confusion, as I was mentioning, there's a lot of pull, there's a lot of expectation from the teachers, parents, academics, not academics, but they are able to handle somehow, and then they are able to meet the requirements of the institution and the society. But there are some children, especially when it comes to underachievers. We have seen that in every institution, when they come, in the first year, many students drop out. This, you go to any institution, any it may be technical, it may be medical science, it may be whatever kind of education stream you consider, you can find that there are a lot of dropouts at the end of the first year. That's because they are unable to handle the academic pressure. So you go to any institution, you can find about 20-25% of them who are underachievers. And they also are in the same age, they are also having the same kind of feelings, they also feel the same just like all the other children. And these are the children who are vulnerable to these kind of things which are considered as shortcuts to handle the stress. I don't say that intelligent people do not do all these things, but I'm saying they are more vulnerable because they are unable to handle the pressures. I was mentioning about National Mental Health Survey, and the National Mental Health Survey tells us that about 13.1% of the students below the age of 20 have got one or the other uh, uh, substance related problems. And the commonest form which we have seen over the last 10 years of our practice is tobacco, alcohol, inhalant abuse, and cannabis. For a very long time, people believed that this addiction is seen only in men, or it is seen only in boys. But it was a myth. We realize that though the number is slightly lesser in the women and the girls, definitely this habit of smoking nicotine or weed or consuming alcohol, in the last 5 or 10 years, there is a remarkable change in the societal values uh, and ethics. Probably everybody feels it is very cool, or if it is very nice to try all these habits. And they say that they many students, when they come to us, they say that if I do this I feel relaxed, or if I do this I feel very cool, I feel very happy, I am a part of the system. I really don't understand why smoking or consuming alcohol is thought to be very cool. But whatever we say doesn't is not well taken by the students many times. So uh, by the time they are in their 20s, by the age of 24, 25, when they come to you for PhD programs, this is when I'm talking about when they come to you for BTech programs or bachelor's program. By the time they finish bachelor's and then they enter masters or post PhD doctorate programs, they are around 24, 25. And in that age, 5 to 8% men and 2 to 5% of women, they have got one or the other substance related problems. Look at the numbers. It is huge. It is really huge. So many times we realize that substance abuse and crime, they are all interrelated. It may be about ragging, it may be about driving the vehicles very fast, it may be about accidents, it may be about hitting somebody, fights. All these things are very common, especially when somebody is under an intoxicated state, when he loses all the inhibitions, and then they would want to do whatever they feel like doing. What we have to realize here is, if you notice that there is some change in the behavior of the child, what do I mean by that? If the child is spending more time in the washrooms, there are a lot of students who go to the washroom, smoke, and then come out. And to smoke, they take about half an hour or 1 hour. If he's spending more time in the washrooms, then you should be cautious. You should just not say that he's taking more time, so that's okay. You should be cautious, because you have to look at the child from a scientific perspective. Why everybody does a kind of a behavior for a reason. And if somebody is taking more time in the washroom, then it is for a reason about which you have to be watchful. And if somebody used to come on time to the class, nowadays he's skipping the class, maybe because of the previous day's hangover, or because of headache, or inability to concentrate because of the habits. If somebody used to come and talk to you very nicely initially, if somebody is talking to the parents very nicely initially, and suddenly he gets withdrawn, he has stopped talking to you, he has stopped talking to the family, he has stopped talking to the friends. Many of the um, fellow inmates who stay in the hostel, they have noticed that most of the times the door is shut. He doesn't even open the door. He doesn't even come out. Most of the times he tries to be alone in the room. Then you have to be watchful. It can be because of habits. Very often it is because of either smoking, or it is because of cannabis or alcohol. Inhalant abuse is slightly less, but yeah, definitely over the last 5 or 10 years, there's a marked rise in the use of tobacco and cannabis, about which you should be very cautious. If you notice that there is some change, as I was mentioning, it is your responsibility as a teacher to talk to the child, try to understand what the child is doing. If the child realizes, if he is able to, if you are able to convince him to stop all these things, and if there are no withdrawal features, then he can stop it immediately. But many a times what happens, if somebody is trying to stop all these habits, they are unable to sleep well, they are unable to concentrate, they are unable to sit at one place, they become very fidgety, they become very restless, they have got tremors of the hand, they start sweating. If these things happen, then you have to realize that just preaching them, just trying to tell them, just trying to guide them will not be sufficient. They have to consult the in-house psychiatrist and seek proper medical advice. Mark my words, if there are no withdrawal features, if there is no much craving, and if the child is receptive, in these three situations, you can just guide the child, take the family into confidence, keep talking to him, help him ventilate his feelings, and then your work will be done. He may be out of that problem. But if there is withdrawal feature, if there is a lot of craving, and if he's not receptive, whatever you tell, he justifies his stand. Then in these three situations, just psychotherapy or counseling them will not help. You have to do early intervention and then refer them to in-house psychiatrist, because once somebody is addicted to these substances, there are neurotransmitter changes in the brain, and once there are neurotransmitter changes in the brain, they need medical advice and just not counseling. So this is where you have to intervene and then do appropriate referrals. The second kind of addiction which we have seen in the last few years is called as behavioral addiction. We have started using this term as behavioral addiction. Between the age of 16 to 25, if you see, about 25% of the students have got cell phone overusage, or what we commonly use as misuse or overuse, between the age of 16 to 25, and it is in this age when they come to you. We are, mind you, we are the world's second largest smartphone users, and the situation is so grave that even cell phone can create problems like alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis. Cannabis meaning ganja. We have seen a lot of students in the last few days, especially after the lockdown, which got over, and now slowly we are coming back to offline education. People have gotten addicted to various kinds of uses of the cell phone. There are a lot of students who crave just to see the screen, no matter what kind of screen it is. Either it may be tab, or it may be laptop, or it is a computer, or it is a phone. They just want to keep seeing some kind of a screen. Only then they feel comfortable. Otherwise, they become so restless that they start troubling others. Then there can be addiction to various uses of a cell phone, like random browsing, uh, shopping on the internet, or it can be dating, it can be chatting, it can be used towards pornography. So whatever kind of uses you can do with the internet, people can get addicted to all those things. There are a lot of students who have come to us with pain in the hand here, off late, especially after the lockdown has gotten over. So what you have to realize is people with addiction to cell phone, they can have change in the behavior as well. People tend to sleep less. Even if they sleep, they tend to get dreams. They become very restless. They become very irritable. They become very impulsive and agitated. Impulsivity, agitation, irritability, lack of social concern, lack of concern towards the teachers, the family, inability to communicate their feelings well, and lack of communication basically is a very common thing which we have started observing in the last few days. Just to tell you how impulsive a person can become when he is addicted to cell phone. A couple of years back there was a report from North Karnataka where uh, a boy was playing PUBG game, and at that point of time there was many students in various parts of the world, they started downloading PUBG and playing it, and they used to be so much engrossed in that they hardly worried about anything that is happening around us, around them. So this boy was playing PUBG at 4 o'clock in the morning, and his father got up at that time and said, see, beta, you'll be writing your exams in the near future. So don't do all these things. Stop playing PUBG. You can use this time to study, to read, so that can help you for your life. This is what the father told. And then if any father tells this, if any teachers tell this, do you think it is wrong? Absolutely no. But this fellow, this boy, got so angry that he just caught hold of his father and throttled him and killed him. And I happened to interview him. And when I tried to interview him, he told me only one thing. Sir, I don't know what happened to me at that point of time. In that heat of that moment, I did not think about anything. I did not think that he is my father after all. He has given birth to me. He has taken care of me. Nothing came to my mind. I just went throttled and then that was the end of it. Now I regret. This is what can happen to many students who overuse a cell phone for playing. What I'm just trying to tell you is the level of impulsivity a child can exhibit. It just depends on that particular situation. There are certain students who just throw articles here and there when they get impulsive. There are students who go to this extent when they get impulsive. But the core feature that persists as a huge problem to us as parents and teachers is impulsivity as a part of overuse of a cell phone. You may notice that some students back answer to you when you try to tell something to you. All these things without social concern, without understanding the psyche of the person who is standing in front of you, without any boundaries, they can do all these things, and it can be a part of addiction to smartphone. So what we have started telling, if you tell somebody not to use a cell phone or a laptop, then you are practically depriving them of learning in the present day, because most of the things happen online. What you can tell them is use it for the right reasons. Advocate healthy usage. So if a child who was absolutely fine till he went home before the lockdown, and now he comes back to your college, and then you start noticing a lot of change in the behavior of the child, you should be watchful, you should be cautious. Try to understand it can be because of over usage of a smartphone or the internet, which has happened over a period of 2 years. But without smartphone, without internet, education would not have continued. So many people ask me, do you think online education or exposure to all these things is good or bad? I keep telling about Swami Vivekananda's words, where very beautifully over 100 years back, he had told us, there's nothing called as right or wrong. It all depends on that situation and the way we utilize things. Such beautiful words he had given at that point of time, maybe 100 years back. So rather than discussing about what is right or wrong, should we have given the cell phone or should we not have done that, it's all over. Now, once they come back to you, make sure that if there is any change compared to what it was earlier, you have to sit back with the child, try to talk to them, and if you're unable to do that, send them to your in-house psychiatrist or a psychologist. Then a very huge problem which has come in the last few years, I mean, this was there, but this has come to our awareness very recently. You go to any institution, there was a very important thing which came up in the newspaper as a headline. There was a huge study which was done by the some agency, and then they realized that many students who have completed their 12th standard, they are not able to write proper sentences. And this made headlines in a newspaper. I don't remember which newspaper it was. This was about 3 or 4 years back. So what you have to understand is, you go to any institution at any level, it may be primary school, it may be high school, it may be college, post graduation, graduation, wherever you go, about 20 to 25% of them have got academic difficulties. We call them as underachievers. They have got academic difficulties. If a child appears mentally challenged, or what we call as intellectual disability, in the present government gazette, what we call as intellectual disability, if he has got moderate or severe kind of intellectual disability, definitely he will not cross high school. So it may not be very evident for you because you are teaching graduation and post graduation. But what you have to realize is, there is one subset of students who are called as low average IQ students. They are not intellectually disabled. They have got average IQ. If you evaluate them, their average will be their IQ will be in the average range. So the moment it comes in the average range, every teacher and parent would come and ask you, sir, his performance should be good because he is an average student. But what you have to realize is, when the boy is in low average IQ range or borderline, which is just above the mild intellectual disability range, the child is able to do everything well except academics, which is required or expected at that age. So he will be able to very nicely tell about all the vehicles, the dressing, movies, very interesting facts, politics. But when it comes to academics, he will start fumbling. So you have to realize that the curriculum which you have at the IITs or NITs is slightly different from that of other technical universities, and it is much intense. That is what I have realized after visiting the campus. So it is possible that many students, even after completing 12th standard with very good marks, they may not be able to cope up with the pressures or expectations of the institutions at this level. So we start seeing that there is some change in the behavior of the child. Once they come to you, they may start missing the classes, or they may avoid talking to you, or they may not be able to talk when all the other students are around, because they feel quite inferior in the presence of others. So though they have completed 12th standard, what academic fineness is required at that level, they may not be able to deliver. So when I have interacted with a lot of teachers, I have realized that education has been very competitive over the years, and expectations have grown. Expectations are there from the teachers, from the institution, from parents, and I believe all the children who come to the graduation level have got some kind of responsible sense of responsibility. They are also trying to do their best, but they may not be able to do so. So you have to realize that every child is different. Every child's capabilities, their skills, their ability to cope up with the things, everything can be different. So if there is any child who is unable to cope up with the requirement or expectations of your institutions at that level, I think you can spend some more time, give them many other options, trying to, if some other child is able to understand something in one sentence, this child may take 2 or 3 sentences to understand that. So you have to cater to all kinds of students who come to you, and that is what you have to understand, that you have to accept the reality that about this number of students can have academic backwardness, and it may take some kind of an extra effort from you as a teacher. Then there are some kind of then there are about 10% of the children who have got learning disability. People with severe disability may not come to you, but definitely people with very mild form of learning disability, where they are unable to differentiate between M and N, or similarly written letters like H and M and N. These things can be there when they present to you. So you have to be slightly giving no, an extra time to them to understand. Then there are some children who are unable to cope up with the situation, and we have realized that about 1% of the children between the age of 13 to 17 have got depression. When you talk about the community, about 10 to 15% of them have got severe depression, whereas about 8 to 10% of them having about milder forms of depression. Depression is different from normal sadness. When we talk of normal sadness, it is for a reason. There is a specific reason. Somebody says something bad to them, somebody abuses them harshly, or somebody does fight with them. So in that situation, somebody may feel sad. That is justified. They may feel sad, they may cry for maybe 2-3 hours. After that, they'll be able to manage their routine activities. But what happens in depression is slightly different from that of normal sadness. We all have cried at some point of time, but that cannot be taken as depression. In depression, there are specific neurotransmitters in the brain which get depleted. We call them as serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, which get depleted. And because of that, a person loses control over his emotions. They feel sad, depressed, worried. They are unable to focus on academics. They want to end their life. They do not want to eat well. They do not want to sleep. Then they try to withdraw themselves from the society. They don't want to mix with anybody. And you have to realize that when you talk to them, they tell you, sir, I know that I should not cry. I know that I should feel good about myself. I know with a lot of difficulty I have come to this level, but I am unable to do that. I am unable to control my emotions. This is where you have to intervene. If somebody cries for a reason and cries for a very short time, it is justified. Then you can just talk to them, counsel them, spend time with them, help them ventilate, and then they'll be able to carry on with their routine life. But if the child tells you that I feel sad, I am unable to control my emotions, and then if at all he says or she says that I do not want to live, I want to end my life, or very commonly what we see, especially in the girls, they try to cut their wrists. Their wrists, they try to cut, and they try to cut their ankles. They try to poke sharp things on their thighs. If you notice that they are cutting their hands and legs, or they tell you openly, overtly that they do not want to live, then you should not wait even for a second. Please, please refer them to the in-house psychologist or a psychiatrist. This should not be taken lightly. They probably would require medications to come out of this problem. This is what you have to understand. Many people are not able to pick up these symptoms. And then we have noticed that in our own country, there is one suicide every 40 seconds. This is the statistics of our own country, and the government website tells us that the number of attempters can be about 20 times higher than the present number. If this is the number of people attempting suicides or deliberate self-harm, what we call, if this is the this is the volume of uh, depression which is there in the society at college level or postgraduate level, then we need to know about this. Many times when somebody expresses the idea of suicide, the first thing you have to realize is they need to ventilate. So as a teacher, you should sit with the child, help them ventilate their feelings, and ventilation itself will reduce their pressure to a great extent. Of course, if they're depressed, if the suicidal ideas keep coming back, and then at that point of time, you need medications, you need psychiatric help, that's a different issue. But at that point of time, I remember one incident that happened. One boy, he called me who was doing his graduation. He called me at around 8 o'clock in the evening, and he said that he was planning to jump in front of a train at about 9:30. And he cut the line. I was really scared, because if somebody tries to find out who was the last person who talked to him, then I will be caught. So I called him back. I tried to convince him to come to me, and I told him, "You come to me today." With a lot of resistance, he came. I told him, if you really want to end your life, don't do it today. This is a train which runs every day. You can do it tomorrow, but not today. Today you come to me. Let me try to help you. Let me assess you. With a lot of resistance, with a lot of reluctance, he came to me, and then he sent a small chit from the counter, and he had written train on that. Train. Without waiting a single second, I called him inside. I tried to talk to him. He ventilated all his feelings in front of me for about 45 minutes. I did not speak a single word. I did not speak a single word. At the end of it, he said, "Sir, now I feel better. I don't want to die." I have not spoken anything from my end. I have not given him medicines till then. I have not said anything good or bad to him. Just ventilation was a kind of a therapy for him. And he said, "Sir, I want to go back, study, and I want to do well." And believe me, it's been 8 years from that day. He finished his graduation. He is working in a multinational company, drawing about 2 lakhs salary. That is the biggest gift I can get as a doctor. So what you have to understand in this example, even I learned from this example, that's a person who really wants to end life, you just have to divert him at that point of time. That's one. And if you divert him at that point of time, you can save a life. That's two. The third thing is, ventilation itself can be therapeutic. And if as a teacher, as a guardian, as a mentor, if you can divert that person's mind at that point of time, you can save thousands of lives. So make sure at that point of time, if you can divert him, you can save a life. And make sure you spend time, no matter how busy you are, at least at that point of time. But after that, do not neglect whatever he has said. He has to be referred to in-house psychiatrist, and probably he needs medications. And in this, identification of these symptoms and appropriate referral becomes your responsibility. Then we have seen a lot of students. This is the last thing which I want to tell you. We have seen a lot of students, by the time they approach their exams, The moment the exam countdown starts, they start washing their hands very frequently. They start going to, they start checking the doors very often. They start touching the things very frequently. So we call these things as obsessions and compulsions. They are repetitive thoughts which provoke a lot of anxiety in the students, especially in performance situations or in situations where they are supposed to write or play something or present something. These become exacerbated, or they become more, and the moment they do that, they feel relaxed. So you have to be cautious. If somebody is doing that, especially during the time of examination, they need to be referred to psychiatrists, because this happens because of chemical changes in the brain. This is one. The second thing you have to identify is psychosis or schizophrenia. We have seen a lot of students who are exceptionally intelligent, who do very well in their 12th standard. They do very well in their CET or JE exams. Then they get into the college. By the time they come to you, they develop certain symptoms called as prodrome. We call that as prodrome. We start noticing that their social interaction drops. There is a sudden drop in their scholastic performance. A person who is scoring 95 or 96 before coming to the college, suddenly after entering the college, he starts failing in his examinations. So, which is very difficult for us to explain. A boy of that caliber failing is very difficult for us to digest as a teacher or as a parent. Reduced social interaction and drop in scholastic performance, which is almost sudden. You have to be cautious. You should know that this can be the onset or the starting point of something called as schizophrenia. If you do not identify poor scholastic performance and social withdrawal at this point of time, they may end up with florid symptoms like, suspecting others. They feel that people will do something to me, people will harm me, and without telling anybody, they may get out of the college, they may go to some other place just to protect themselves, because their fear, their perception that somebody will do something to them or talking in their ears is absolutely imaginary for us. But for that person who is suffering from this schizophrenia, it is real. He feels it is real. So he may try to do something to protect him. So withdrawal, social withdrawal, and poor scholastic performance, with or without suspicion that people are trying to do something from me, trying to do something to me, cannot go away with counseling or psychotherapy. They have to be treated on medical basis, and they have to consult psychiatrists only. So what you have to understand at the end of my talk is, by the time they are in adolescence, giving importance to friends, doing what friends tell them, or listening to friends and distancing themselves from you, some kind of an odd behavior just to seek sympathy, just to seek attention, is a very normal feature at this age. If at all their behavior is limited to this, you need not worry. All you have to understand is, you have to spend more time with the child, try to understand from the child's perspective, and guide them, which may take more than one attempts, because they try to maintain distance. But if they are unable to cope up with the environment or the social stressors, and then they get addicted to either cell phone or habits, or they are found to be depressed or anxious, or they express suicidal ideas, or schizophrenic symptoms are presented by them, then you cannot take chance. All you have to do is just to identify this lot and discuss with the psychiatrist. But what you have to understand is, psychological interventions in terms of psychotherapy, or it may be in terms of pharmacological treatment, that is medicines, may take some time, may take weeks to months. So many times when we talk to teachers and then we tell them that we are giving them medicines, he'll be fine or she'll be fine. They would expect the change to happen in 1 or 2 weeks so that he can come back as early as possible to the college. Even we would want to do that. But what you have to realize is our medications take at least 2 to 4 weeks. Psychotherapy or counseling will take at least a couple of months to show some kind of an improvement or to show some kind of an impact on the child. So nothing will happen overnight. We may require your support, your cooperation so that we both, together can help the child to make a beautiful living. And you have to tell them, because all these days they have been focusing about only marks and money. Marks, placement, money. How do you define the success of a child? How many marks, how much marks he's taking, which company he got placed, what is his per annum salary. That is the most unfortunate part. There are a lot of students who may not be able to clear the campus placements. There are a lot of children who come out of the college, then they apply, then they may get jobs. So what you have to realize is the definition of success or who is a good student has to change. And if that has to change, that change has to start from us. You have to tell the child very frequently, money is important, but not the only thing in life. Work is equally important. The importance of family, the social support, taking care of your health, spiritual values, need for self-improvement, and at the end of the day, values and morals are absolutely important. And you just imagine this wheel of life, if anywhere there is a puncture, this wheel will not run. So you have to advocate to the children that they have to develop all these values. Only then they can make a balanced living. You have to teach them balanced living because the life has become very competitive. Just money cannot define success. That's what you're supposed to tell. So as a teacher, identify common psychological problems, and if at all, I have told you 3 things. Sudden change in the behavior. A boy or girl is doing something which he would never do otherwise. Avoiding academics and poor scholastic performance, which is sudden. You have to be watchful. You have to be aware that this can be a sign of psychological stress, and then you have to seek professional help. You have to keep telling children marks are important, but not the only thing in life. You have to teach them living and not just academics. The most difficult art in this world is the art of living, and you are supposed to teach that as a mentor. But the biggest question comes here. We want to help the child, but the child does not open up. This is the problem with many of the teachers. If I ask you to share your feelings and thoughts, what you feel, how do you feel, would you do that right away? No. There are 100 things in your mind. The first thing that comes to your mind is, can I trust the doctor? Is he a genuine human being? Will he try to help me? Will he understand my problems? All these things come to your mind. Similarly, when you ask the child to come forward and tell his problems, share his problems, why would he do that? So it is our job as a teacher, because I have already told you, a teacher teaching is like, being an extended parent. So you have to mentor the child, and I would say that you are the best counselor, in-house counselor a child can get, because you see the child day in and day out, you see the performance, you keep observing their behavior. You can be the best psychologist to the teacher, to the student. So if you plan to do that, then you have to develop these 4 attitudes. The first thing is genuineness. Every child would want the teacher to be very genuine towards his problems. Only then the child will tell you the problems, otherwise he will not. And in this, the child keeps observing you, and every child would want the teacher to be serious when he tells his problem. It may appear very small or minuscule to us, but for the child, it is a huge problem. It's a very major issue. So the next thing what the child expects is empathy. Understand from the child's perspective. As I was mentioning, for us, it may be a very small thing, but for him, it's a huge one. So understand from the child's perspective. The third thing is warmth. Every child would want the teacher or the counselor to be warm to him. At the same time, they want you not to be judgmental. Very often this happens, we have got a biased attitude towards certain set of students. Sir, I'm very sure this he must have only done because he has this kind of a behavior. Sir, I'm very sure he does like this only because I've been seeing him for a very long time. We become judgmental when it comes to our own students. But what the child or that student who is in trouble, who is in pain, would want us to be is non-judgmental. So a child will open up, express his feelings only when you develop these four attitudes. That's a genuineness, empathy, warmth, and non-judgmental attitude. So I think at the end of the day, if we try to develop these attitudes, definitely we can be better teachers. At the same time, we can be in-house psychologists. At the same time, we can help our own students. Thank you very much for patient hearing.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Pandungi. I think this is a very, very important session on identifying, what kind of things we should be looking out for, and what we should, in general, what qualities we should develop, which is the last 4 points, which are very important for us as teachers, because we are going to be dealing with these students, and if the students are in good condition and they perform well, finally we also become happy, right? That's what we are here for. Yeah. So if participants, if they have any questions or you have any thing that you want to ask doctor, then we can just spend some 10-15 minutes to take any questions you may have. Any participants, any questions?
If there are no questions, if somebody
somebody has written in the chat box.
If teachers have issues, sir, at the end of the day, even teachers are human beings. So even teachers can have issues. Very importantly, what you have to understand is you have to approach things scientifically. So if there are certain things which really trouble you, which really bother you, and which you feel is interfering in your day-to-day work or the way you teach, then definitely you have to consult in-house a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And many people think that the moment you go to psychiatrist, they will give you medicines, and these medicines are sedative, they have got side effects. There's nothing of that kind. Trust me, just like physical health is important to us, even psychological health is. So physical health and psychological health, they are two sides of the same coin. So you have to have an open mind. Definitely, I'm a part of the institute. If there's any problem and if you feel that I can be of some help, definitely come and approach me. I'll be honored to help you.
Dr. Pandurgi, this session has have faculty from our other institutes also. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
then
there's one more question. So there's one more question: how to handle inferiority complex among students?
Inferiority complex or the sense of feeling inferior can stem from two things. One is the personality itself can be such that they keep talking negative about themselves and others. They keep talking, uh, that they are weak, they are unable to do something, uh, they are not good. So people can have this kind of a personality. Or if you talk about students, I've been mentioning that every institution will have about 20 to 25% of underachievers. They have been achieving much less compared to what they are supposed to do, and over a period of time, that sense that they are not as good as others, that can creep in, and then that can color the personality. This is the second one. The third possibility is somebody having anxiety issues or somebody having depressive feeling which they are not able to control. They want to feel good about themselves but they are unable to do so. It can be part of depression or anxiety. So it can be part of personality, or it can be ongoing experiences because of underachievement in academics, or it can be part of anxiety or depression. uh, I have mentioned what are the common features of anxiety, depression, and then what can happen normally as a child during this age group. If you need much more clarity, then it is better you can consult your in-house psychologist or a psychiatrist so that they can decide upon what kind of management which can be done.
What if,
Miss Poonam, do you have a question?
yes, sir. So what if there's no inferior complexity, but in fact, if there is a overconfidence, but at the same time have a negative attitude towards everything. So how to deal with that at this age?
Uh, Madam, as I was mentioning, there are some temperamental issues which develop as a child. Uh, and as they grow, by the time they are 16 or 18 years of age, that develops into a personality. So many of these features do not just appear over a period of 1 or 2 days. They have been ongoing, they have been a part of his temperament right from his or her childhood, and they develop into their personality by the time they reach adolescent age group or 16 or 18 years of age, and then they may present to you. So very importantly, they need very aggressive psychotherapy. They need a lot of ventilation because of their negative attitudes, and because of these negative attitudes towards everything, they have a tendency to go into or slip into depression or anxiety, and during that short phase they may require medications also. So it will not disappear over a period of 1 or 2 weeks. Definitely they need regular psychotherapy, regular talking to, or what we call as talk therapy, and as and when required medicinal help. That's in the form of pharmacology. That will help students.
Okay,
I
but
think
most of the time, what happens, the student or the person who is suffering this, they don't realize that their approach is negative. They feel that they are correct and others are wrong.
And I was mentioning to you, madam, in this age, they feel they know everything. And even if they are in trouble, they would want to seek help from the friends and not teachers and parents, where the actual barrier starts appearing. You know
actually,
that.
Doctor, in that case, it becomes all the more difficult to convince them to meet some psychologist.
Very true, sir. And I've been encountering these situations day in and day out. You know that somebody is committing a mistake, and you know that he has to consult a psychiatrist or a psychologist. You know he needs guidance, but you are unable to convince them. That's why in the beginning, I think there was a slide I was mentioning that you may require to take 100 attempts, but you have to do it because you are a teacher, because there is resistance from the students, because they are in the age of adolescence. So age, environment, the kind of their attachment towards the friends, that plays a very huge role in this. So but as teachers, as mentors, it is our responsibility to keep telling. We have to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, I would like to profusely thank Dr. Pandurangi once again for giving this very good and nice and useful session. We hope we will be able to have a good time with our students and train them well while taking care of them. Thank you very much,
Sir.
Doctor.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.